Hello, listeners. Welcome to Dark and Divine Encounters. I'm your host, Denise Dodge, and each episode I will be guiding you through two real supernatural encounters, one eerie and the other one positive. Life is a mix of trials and triumphs, and I've seen that the paranormal is no different. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and follow us on social media for updates. New episodes drop every Wednesday. Please share this podcast with people you know who love scary stories, spiritual lore, and anything unexplained. This podcast features stories of paranormal activity and true crime, which may contain details or descriptions of events and incidents that may be unsettling or triggering for some listeners. Take care of your needs first and always. Today, for our dark segment, we're going to talk about the most haunted beach in India. And for our divine segment, we're exploring the commonalities between the most famous near-death experiences. By day, Dumas Beach in Surat, Gujarat in India is a lively attraction, with visitors marveling at its striking black sand and the vast expanses of the Arabian Sea. But when night falls, a different kind of energy takes over. The waves whisper secrets and the wind carries unsettling voices, and those who dare to stay after sunset often report encounters that they cannot explain. For centuries, Dumas Beach has been associated with death and the supernatural. It was once a Hindu burial ground. The spirits of the departed are believed to still linger, and they're trapped in between worlds. Some claim that the black sand itself is created from the ashes of the dead and holds the restless energy of those who were cremated here. But for many, these are not just stories, they are terrifying experiences that have left a lasting mark. A group of friends once decided to test the beach's haunted reputation. Confident that the ghost stories were nothing more than myth, they planned to stay until midnight, hoping to capture something eerie on video. At first, everything seemed normal. The moon cast a silver glow over the beach, and the cool breeze carried the rhythmic sound of the waves. But as the night deepened, an unshakable sense of unease crept over them. The air grew unnaturally still, and that's when the whispers began to rise. Not from any of them, but from the empty expanse of the beach. One of them, named Ravi, felt something brush against his shoulder. He turned quickly, expecting to see one of his friends playing a prank, but they were all standing a few feet away and they were frozen in fear. A tall, dark shadow loomed behind him, stretching unnaturally against the sand, and the shadow did not belong to any of them. Panic set in, and the group ran back to their car. But as they reached it, they realized something horrifying. Their footprints were not the only ones visible in the sand. Something else had been following them. The shadow had moved, but had left no trace. They never returned to Dumas Beach after that night. A solo traveler named Arjun had heard the rumors about Dumas Beach and he had dismissed them as just superstitious. One evening, he decided to take a walk along the shoreline. The sunset was beautiful and the sound of the waves was very soothing. But as night fell, a strange sensation washed over him, a heavy, suffocating presence as if unseen eyes were watching him. At first, he ignored it. But then he heard it. It was laughter. It was faint, almost playful, as if a group of people were gathered just beyond the waves. But when he turned to look, there was no one there. The beach was empty. He quickened his pace, but the laughter only grew louder, and it was no longer playful. It was mocking. It was echoing around him and surrounding him. A chill ran down his spine as he realized it wasn't coming from one place, it was coming from everywhere. Terrified, he sprinted back to the hotel. When he finally reached safety, he looked at his phone and saw that the battery, which had been fully charged when he left, was now just drained to 1%. His hands were ice cold, his clothes slightly damp as if he had been standing in the sea. Arjun didn't talk about his experience for months, but when he did, he learned that he wasn't the only one who heard the ghostly laughter of Dumas Beach. One of the most chilling stories comes from a local fisherman, Rahul, who had spent decades near Dumas Beach. He often warned visitors against staying after dark, but very few listened. One night, he witnessed something that shook him to his core. A lone man had been walking along the shoreline, seemingly deep in thought. Rahul had seen him earlier in the day taking pictures and enjoying the sunset, and his demeanor was very different then than it was now. But as the night progressed, the man wandered farther away towards the darker, more isolated part of the beach. Rahul swore he saw the man stop and look around as if sensing something near him, and then without warning, he vanished. There was no splash, there was no struggle, no sign of where he had gone, just empty beach where he stood moments before. And shaken, Rahul waited, expecting him to reappear, but he didn't. A search party was sent the next morning, but there was no footprints leading into the water, and there was no sign that anyone had drowned. His belongings remained untouched where he had originally left them, and the only explanations locals offered was the one they had always known, that the spirits of Dumas Beach had taken him. A paranormal investigator named Vikram set out to prove whether the stories about Dumas Beach was true. He came prepared with a camera, thermal sensors, and electromagnetic field detectors, and for the first hour, nothing unusual happened. Then, as the night deepened, his equipment began malfunctioning. The temperature on his thermal scanner suddenly dropped by 10 degrees in seconds. His camera started capturing blurry figures that were not visible to the naked eye. But it was what he saw later that convinced him something truly haunted the beach. While reviewing his footage at home, he came across several still images of the same spot on the beach, each one showing something different. In one, a pair of glowing red eyes stared back at him from the darkness, and in another, a ghostly silhouette stood near the water, barely visible. But the final image was the most disturbing, and it was a close-up of his own face, except that he had not once taken a selfie while he was there. Dumas Beach is not just a place of folklore. It's a place where many have felt something beyond human understanding. Whether it's the whispers in the wind, the shadows that stretch too long, or the voices that call out names, something lingers here. Skeptics claim that the sounds are just the result of strong coastal winds, that the shadows are tricks of the light. But those who have stood on that haunted shore at night know the truth. And if you ever visit Dumas Beach, enjoy its beauty in the daylight. But when the sun begins to set, listen carefully. If the wind whispers your name, if laughter echoes where no one stands, and if the shadows stretch too far, leave immediately. Because once the darkness takes hold, there's no telling what's waiting. Dumas Beach is said to be haunted by spirits that never crossed over properly, but what about those of us who almost died but lived to tell the tale? Near-death experiences offer a glimpse into the unknown, where the living momentarily step into the afterlife and return with stories of light, peace, and even messages from beyond. What do these encounters reveal about what awaits us? Let's explore the common threads in some of the most famous near-death experiences. What happens when we die? It's the one question that haunts humanity. It's whispered in hospital rooms, it's pondered in quiet moments, and sometimes it's answered by those who have stepped beyond the veil and returned. Countless people from different cultures, backgrounds, and beliefs have described eerily similar experiences, floating outside of their bodies, moving through a tunnel of light, meeting beings of pure love, and reliving their lives in a flash. Are these glimpses of the afterlife? Is it a spiritual awakening? Or is it simply the brain's final fireworks before shutting down. We're going to sift through a few different stories and see what the commonalities are between them. We're going to go from Dr. Eben Alexander, a neurosurgeon who once dismissed near-death experiences but later had one himself, to Betty Eady, whose journey beyond death transformed her life, to Anita Morjani, who returned from the brink of death with a profound understanding of love and healing. And then there's Pam Reynolds, whose documented experience during a brain surgery defies all logical explanation. Their stories are haunting, they're beautiful, and strangely familiar. So, what does it all mean? One of the most common elements reported in near-death experiences is the out-of-body experience, or OBE. People describe feeling a sudden detachment from their physical form, as if they're floating above their own body, watching everything unfold from a different perspective. They see doctors working frantically to revive them. They hear conversations that should be impossible to hear, and sometimes even drift into other rooms. What makes this so compelling is that many of these reports have later been verified. Patients recalling specific details of their resuscitation, the placement of medical instruments, even things outside of the hospital room. And if this were simply the brain misfiring, how would we explain the accuracy of these observations? Then there is the tunnel of light, a motif so universal it has become almost synonymous with the idea of dying. A vast majority of NDE survivors describe being drawn towards an incredible bright, radiant light, often at the end of a tunnel or a corridor. But it's not just any ordinary light. They often share that it's alive in some way. It's filled with warmth, filled with feelings of love, or an overwhelming sense of peace. Some describe feeling as though they are being pulled towards it, as if gravity itself is drawing them in. And others say that they willingly move towards it, knowing instinctively that whatever is beyond that light is something profound, something sacred. And then there comes the life review. This is one of the most fascinating aspects of near-death experiences because it's not just about reliving memories. It's about feeling them. People describe their entire lives flashing before them in an instant, but with a depth of emotion that they never experienced in real time. So they don't just see what they did, they feel how their actions affected others. And if they hurt someone, they experience that pain as if it was their own. If they showed kindness, they feel the warmth of that moment from the other person's perspective. Some describe a presence guiding them through the review, not with judgment, but with a sense of loving understanding, as if they're being shown the truth of their own existence and in a way that they could not have grasped before. Many also report encounters with spiritual beings or deceased loved ones. Some describe seeing angelic figures, beings of light that radiate unconditional love. Others are greeted by family members who have passed on and are typically welcoming them with open arms. These loved ones often have messages. It's usually something reassuring, about something unfinished maybe, or there's a simple acknowledgement that everything's going to be okay. In some cases, these encounters feel very deeply personal, while in others, the presence is almost universal, as if they are meeting an energy or an intelligence that's beyond human comprehension. And finally, there's the boundary. In these near-death experiences, at some point in almost all of them, the person reaches a limit. There is a point where they have to make a choice. Sometimes it's a river, a gate, or it's just a feeling that they cannot cross any further. For some, the decision is theirs to make, and for others, it's not. They often report feeling a pull to return to the body, perhaps for the sake of their loved ones or some form of unfinished purpose that needs to be dealt with. Others are told in no uncertain terms that their time is just not up yet. They are sent back, sometimes gently, sometimes forcefully, only to awaken in their body with a profound sense of what they just experienced was very real and more real than our life that we experience in the material realm. Near-death experiences push the boundaries of what we think we know about life, death, and consciousness itself. People from all walks of life, different cultures, beliefs, backgrounds, they return with strikingly similar accounts. They float outside of their body, they travel through tunnels of light, they relive their lives in a way that forces them to understand their impact on others and themselves. And they meet beings who radiate love and guidance, whether it's an angel or a loved one. They realize that love, kindness, and connection matter more than anything, and that regret is a very, very heavy burden to carry when time runs out. So what if we didn't wait for a brush with death to wake us up? What if we started living now with the same urgency and the same clarity? Because whether there is something beyond this life or not, the one thing that we know for sure is that we are here right now in this present moment. And this life, our choices, our experiences, our impact, that's in our hands. We want to hear your own paranormal or spiritual experiences. Have you had an encounter with a spirit or experienced something that you just cannot explain? Send your experiences our way and you might hear them featured in an upcoming episode. You can reach out via email, social media, or through our website. And if you'd like to buy me a cup of coffee, my donation links are in the show description, along with a link to the show notes if you'd like to know more details about today's topic. Your support helps us keep exploring real paranormal encounters together, so please share this podcast with people you know who love scary stories, spiritual lore, and anything unexplained. That brings us to the end of the episode today. We have balanced the scales of the paranormal, revealing both the unsettling and the uplifting. Thank you for listening to Dark and Divine Encounters. Until next time, tread lightly but fearlessly.